Jeffrey Katzenberg is pals with former CIA official Henry Crumpton. Among other high-level positions, Crumpton was also head of the CIA's National Resource Division, a domestic intel operation that is tasked with turning people into CIA assets. That's who's hanging out with the guy who just gave the Young Turks $20 million.
Wait a minute.
Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
What are you people? We're Americans.
A primo radical.
We are Americans indeed. Thank you, Mr. Zor. We appreciate you. That was our good friend Jimmy Dore.
Okay, did I understand that correctly?
Go ahead.
So, the people that just gave Cenk and all them $20 million are also the same people that are hanging out with the people that kind of find people to be part of the CIA?
Recruiters for the Central Intelligence Agency.
Okay, well,
so Katz, who gave
interesting.
Cenk $20 million, his buddy, one of his buddies, is a guy who recruits people for the Central Intelligence Agency.
Well, that's suspicious.
Now, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vincent. That's my wife, Sori. We're not left wing. We're not right wing. We're just
right.
We're just right. Honestly, we're some evangelical Christians who are trying to figure out what progressivism is all about.
Yep, we're making our way through the progressive platform and
making our way through the progressive landscape. I'm not a progressive, but there are progressive ideologies and such that I really like.
Mm-hmm. Some things have caught our eye.
Medicare for all.
Mm-hmm.
The anti-war stance.
Mm-hmm.
Student loan debt.
Yeah,
all those
student loan debt.
Yeah.
They're okay, unless I'm mistaken. They're also concerned about the children at the border.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
for
another.
Sure.
That's another.
Sure. A lot of real compassion, etc., that I think has been missing from politics in a long time. Obviously, compassion is not an adjective I would assign to the Republican Party currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm talking about the party. I'm not talking about the people. I'm sure there are many compassionate people who are on the right, vote Republican, whatever. I'm just talking about the party affiliation. So we're looking around. Was going to vote for a Democrat for the first time in both of our lives with Bernie Sanders in 2016. And then you saw how that turned out. Now, I got introduced to Bernie Sanders because of the Killer Mike interview.
Yep. They were in the barbershop. It was very eye-opening. It was very interesting.
I remember because you were the first person I showed.
Yeah.
We weren't together at the time, but you were the first person I showed. I said, yo, check this guy out.
Yep.
I was blown away. And then I started trying to look for more I was trying to look for more and more stuff about Bernie Sanders, and then that's how I ran into TYT, because at the time TYT were the only ones that were like positively talking about Bernie. All the other ones were like mocking him and all the rest of it. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like this guy's a good dude. That's how I found TYT and Cenk. And then obviously finding Cenk, you find Jimmy Dore. And so coming into it as an observer, I saw Cenk. I found them when it was Cenk, Jimmy. Jimmy had the show called Aggressive Progressives or something like that. And I actually at first was kind of like turned off by Jimmy because he's so aggressive, you know. But Cenk was sort of like the patriarch, the guy that kind of like, you know, ran the ship, and he seemed really intelligent.
You said Jimmy was aggressive?
Oh, Jimmy Dore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I
that was literally his show.
Yeah.
That was literally his show. It was called Aggressive Progressives.
Oh, okay.
That was, and his thing was, we're going to be, you know, whatever. And, you know, I didn't watch a lot of Jimmy Dore at the time. Because I was still like at the ground level. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know about Medicare for All. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I understood the concept from the barbershop thing, but I didn't really like get into the meat and potatoes. I didn't know the stats. I didn't know anybody was dying. You know what I'm saying? And so I was just like in information gathering mode. And so Cenk was really, you know, he had this kind of like elder states, because he does that. Like when people are like freaking out at TYT, like he'll be the calm one, be like, okay guys, yada yada yada.
Here's the plan.
You know, when that's happening. So I figured that out. I was like, okay, all right, Cenk is okay. He's, you know, I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful. You know, but then there was an obvious, I don't know, shift in messaging, whatever, and all of us are trying to figure out what the hell happened, because now they're trying to act like Jimmy is this crazy person when Jimmy hasn't moved at all from his position. He's been the same guy the entire time. So there's a lot of questions like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And of course, now CNN has actual guys from the agency on CNN, like explicitly saying, yeah, I used to be in the agency, now I work for CNN. Like that's
What? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's been this very you know, and shout out to, this is Ashura, shout out to, I think that it's The Dive with Jackson Hinkle. If you know about this program, then I'm going to assume that you know about his program, but you should really check him out. He's a up and coming guy. Ashura, I'm going to be playing some of the clips that Jackson played when Cenk was talking about how the CIA is not evil enough, he said. Hey, shout out to We Are Kings. He's from Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica.
Oh, nice.
So shout out to the homie. Okay, so that's what was going on with me. And then there was that decided change, and then obviously we have agency folks in the media, and I tell people all the time, like, I'm pretty certain you know someone who's worked for the agency, but you don't know anyone who's worked for the NSA. That's that's kind of the line, right? Like, so there are people that are agency connected explicitly out in public, that type of thing. Shout out to Applejack. Applejack's the big homie. Shout out to him. He made a killing on that GameStop thing. But that's a different discussion. Okay, so that's been going on. Now, we know about the entire jihad between Aaron Mate and Anna Kasparian.
Yeah.
And so Anna's going back and forth, and she says this. Now here's what she, well, it's a tweet. Okay. So you can see Anna right here saying, finally, I do find it fascinating that Mate endlessly obsesses over my one interview with Madeleine Albright, which had no impact on my politics or work, but seems to think taking money, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's
the one where she said it was an honor to talk to that
correct,
lady?
Madeleine Albright, the war criminal who said it was worth it to massacre those almost 500,000 Iraqi children with sanctions. We did that. We did that as Americans. Thank you. But you'll notice here, this Bellingcat.com was a source of this right here, right, of this article. And Jimmy said, oh, Bellingcat is a CIA operation, whatever. And, you know, he just kind of threw that out there, and I'm like...
Jimmy said that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And everybody's like, yeah, it was a CIA outlet, blah, 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 blah. Well, you guys know how, well, you might not know how I get down. I don't really, look, if you're going to say something like that, we need to see. You better
source that.
We need to source it. Now, some of this has to do with my own ignorance of these outlets and things like that. But here you go, guys. Here is Elliot Higgins.
Oh, is this something for headphones?
Elliot Higgins, not yet. Okay. Elliot Higgins is the guy who started Bellingcat. There he is, looking like a normal dude.
Yeah.
People accuse me of working for the CIA. Now, why are they accusing you of working for the CIA? Now, remember, this guy is he's a high school dropout. He went to school overseas at this boys' school. He spent 5 years at this boys' school. He dropped out. And then he started, he was basically a stay-at-home dad. His wife, by the way, is Turkish. He's a stay-at-home dad. He started this blog called Bellingcat.
Okay.
And now he's this big international man of mystery. And so there's Bellingcat. Now, why, dear listener, would Brother Jimmy accuse this guy of being a CIA asset? Why would he say that? Why would he accuse? And of course, as you just saw in the screenshot I just showed you guys, Jimmy's not the only person that's accusing this brother.
Right.
A lot of people are accusing him of being a CIA asset. But why? Why, oh why, would people accuse you of that, Mr. Elliot Higgins? I mean, I'm just a simple high school dropout who started a blog. Well, there's this.
Uh-oh. Headphones yet?
Yeah. No, you don't need the headphones.
No?
You'll notice here it says CIA.gov.
Oh. Oh, look.
CIA.gov. So where I am at right now
Did you say the guy's name was Higgins?
is literally the CIA's website. That's where we are. We are Bellingcat, an intelligence agency for the people. Elliot Higgins, Bloomberry 2021. This is the CIA. This is the CIA's website. Plagued as we are these days by disinformation campaigns and bizarre conspiracy theories. Isn't that interesting? The CIA is talking about bizarre conspiracy theories. When the CIA were the main people that were spinning the whole Trump-Russiagate thing, we continue. When y'all knew good and well... It is easy to wonder if anyone is working effectively to combat them. Thankfully, the answer is yes. Elliot Higgins, the founder of Bellingcat, the best known and most influential private organization involved in these efforts, tells the story of a combination memoir and call to arms. We are Bellingcat. It might be a stretch to call Bellingcat an intelligence agency for the people, as Higgins does, but his book is well worth reading, both as a methodological primer and also for a glimpse. Now watch very closely what I'm about to read to you. Also for a glimpse of how the world's intelligence and journalism may be converging, end quote.
Whoa.
Let me get this straight. This is some random dude, high school drop. He's just some regular guy, man. And now the CIA is doing a story about his blog and saying that he's a savior. You notice that? Is there anyone working effectively to combat the misinformation and conspiracy theories that are in the world? Yes, we have Mr. Higgins, a regular high school dropout. There it is again. In 2011, Higgins was a college dropout, stuck in a boring office job and unsure what to do with his life. Really? Interesting. Intrigued by the Arab Spring and the revolts in Libya and Syria, which we created. He began following events by reading blogs, watching video clips, etc. And then it goes down. Now look at what it says here. Small wonder that the Russian government and its trolls have sought to discredit Bellingcat at every turn. You know, the Russians who kept saying, no, we don't have any conspiracy with your president. And every time the Russians would defend themselves, we would say, well, duh, of course you're going to say that. And then if you said, well, actually, the Russians have a point, then you also became Russiagated. But thankfully, we have Bellingcat, according to the CIA, that can fight for the truth, justice, and the American way. That's who Anna Kasparian quoted. Of all the people she could have quoted, that's who she quoted. Bellingcat. Now, Jackson Hinkle, shout out to CEB. Jackson Hinkle did and again, like, share, comment, and subscribe to his channel, please. Jackson Hinkle recently did a story on an archive video from the Young Turks from about 2016, where they spoke with an ex-CIA officer.
Okay.
Okay? So look, people who work for the CIA are called officers. When you go to another country and you get somebody to betray their country, that's an agent.
Oh.
Okay? So a person who works directly with the CIA is an officer.
Oh.
Okay? If you successfully turn somebody, that person is an agent.
Oh.
Okay? It's very, very important.
Okay.
Here's Stoudman. Jackson Hinkle is a joke. Stoudman is, I don't think Jackson Hinkle is a joke. I think he's actually a pretty intelligent fella, and I think people should subscribe to his channel. Stoudman, though, is, he's got to be Stoudman is a contrarian. Everything he says, he's going to be contrary to Jimmy, contrary to Jackson, contrary. If I said the sky was blue, he'd say it was orange. But we love people like that in our community. We love people like that in our community. So Bellingcat is just a regular guy, man. That Higgins fella, he's just a regular dude, bro. He's just a regular dude with a blog. Just a regular dude with a blog in his basement that the CIA somehow believes is the savior of the world. And there's no connection at all. Okay. Recently, Brother Cenk did an interview. Well, not recently, actually. It was 3 or 4 years ago. And so here is the discussion that Cenk had with a former member of the Central Intelligence Agency. He brought him on the book.
Yeah, it's funny, now that you mention it, you went to Cornell, right? I went to Penn. Yeah. Similar time, I graduated in 92.
You went to Cornell, I went to Penn. Okay? Now remember, this guy he's an out former officer in the Central Intelligence Agency, okay? Watch very closely. Listen to this conversation.
It's funny, now that you mention it, you went to Cornell, right? I went to Penn. Yeah. Similar time, I graduated in 92, and I remember there was an opening at the CIA, and I think I had a conversation about it.
He thinks he had a conversation about it.
Seems like something you would remember.
Is that something you would forget? One of these spooks comes up to you to recruit you. Let me tell you something. You would not forget that conversation when those folks come up to recruit you. Believe you me. But he thinks, now let's get this straight. This guy is explicitly a former CIA officer. Cenk schedules a show. He knows this guy's going to be on, and then out of nowhere he goes, I think I was recruited by this. No, really, Cenk. Like,
yeah,
what a ridiculous. That's like the other thing that the other guy pointed out, where the person had the trans slur, and Cenk was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you guys had to see that."
Oh yeah,
and the guy's like, "Well, all you had to do in post or pre is delete it out, and then nobody had to see it." So Cenk does these things where he sets these things up like he's having a regular conversation. Like, oh, now that I think about it, you got a CIA officer coming to your studio. And you waited till he's in the studio, and now your memory's jogged. I think, so Hinkle looked at this, and he's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Check out his video.
It's funny, now that you mention it, you went to Cornell, right? I went to Penn. Yeah. Similar time, I graduated in 92, and I remember there was an opening at the CIA, and I think I had a conversation about it, and they're like, ooh, you're Turkish, and yeah, something, we could do that, and I was like, nah.
Oh, is that what happened? You said no, Cenk? The agency tried to recruit Cenk Uygur, and he said, nah. And it just came to his mind as he was talking to this CIA officer who wrote a book. Now, this guy, I had to spend about 15 of my minutes just researching who he was, because I have no idea who this guy is. Just completely, it's like, how do you even know this guy? But okay, all right. So he was, the CIA tried to recruit him, he said no. Okay. Well, guys, guess what? Cenk went to Penn. He just said he went to Penn. He went to the I forgot the name of this. There's a specific business school for management, and he got his degree there. Okay. So that's where Cenk went to school. Now here's something that's very, very, very interesting, guys. I want to show you something because I don't really know specifically what exactly to do with this, but do with it what you will. One of the reasons I'm shooting this video is because I'm like, you know what, a lot of the folks at the Middle America page have been sleuthing and have been coming up with some very, very interesting stuff, which kind of sent me down a little rabbit hole. And Here are some of the results of the rabbit holery. Now, here we go. Now, I'm about to show you where this source came from, guys. So this source right here is the Asia Pacific Journal, okay? And the title of this document is Spies on Campus, the CIA and the FBI from the Indochina Wars to the War on Terror. And this website is chronicling all the ways in which the agency was working to recruit people from colleges, which, by the way, is massively, they do that all the time, especially with Ivy League schools. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
And to the business school, I think it's Wharton is the business school that Cenk went to, is also the same school that Donald Trump went to.
Oh.
For business. So like this is not these are not for slouches. Mm-hmm. So all these people that says Cenk is an idiot, blah blah blah. He's not an idiot. Everybody who gets to where Cenk is and all these people are extremely intelligent. It's just there's a difference between combat intelligence and static intelligence, or kinetic intelligence and static intelligence, right? So, like, static intelligence means you're just sitting around, nothing's happening to you, nobody's threatening you, you have time to think. Mm-hmm. Great. Kinetic intelligence is shit is happening, boom, 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 and it's chaos all around you. Can you still slow down and think and strategize? Okay, so Tom Brady has a lot of kinetic intelligence. Mm-hmm. Cenk doesn't. Mm-hmm. His intelligence is static. He needs to sit and think. Yeah. So that's why when Glenn Greenwald shot the thing, he got all in his feelings and he shot that video, and then he told on himself that Anna was lying, or that he was lying when he said the nice news skirt thing, and he had forgotten that Anna had said the opposite.
Right.
Because his intelligence is static, it's not kinetic.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that if you know that about yourself, you say, okay, well, then I'm going to
make the necessary adjustments.
I'm going to wait till I calm down, and then I'm going to do what I need to do.
Right.
Okay. So here we go. Here's Sir Crookington. The black family is done for. What's up, Sir Switch, you racist bastard? He's just saying that because you're white. I hold a critical race theory, so I don't believe that race is a biological reality. So the black family isn't done for. There's that. Okay. So, and plus, we're the fathers of humanity. So she came from us. So everybody's black technically from that perspective. Right, brother? We continue. Ian Kirby in the house. Ian Kirby's here. Okay.
Hi, Ian.
Now I'm going to read you guys. We're going to read you some selections from this article, and we'll put all this stuff. We'll put all this stuff for you guys to check on yourself. Okay. So here is the article. Okay, from the Asia Pacific Journal. On the crisp autumn afternoon of November 26, 2007, a black car picked up Graham Spanier, then president of Pennsylvania State University. And so this is a pretty long, involved article. And basically, the long story short of the article is it's talking about how the relationship between these alphabet agencies and colleges, it was pretty good during the World War I period, right? Mm-hmm. Makes sense. World War I, World War II, it made sense. There was a lot of co-belligerency and, hey, let's do this and get the Krauts and all the rest of it. Shout out to Germany. But then the 60s happened, and the 60s Vietnam War, there was a lot of pushback against these alphabet companies, CIA, NSA, FBI, on the college campuses, because the college campuses were the hotbeds for the anti-war movement and all the rest of it. I mean, after all, these are kids in these are kids in their 20s, right, who are facing the prospect of going to Vietnam themselves. They're like, fuck you guys. So there was a real issue between the agency elements and trying to recruit. Obviously, you want to recruit the best and the brightest, and you're going to go to a college for that, right? The agency has since kind of augmented their
a college dropout.
Their standards. What do you mean?
Well,
correct.
That's interesting.
Correct.
Okay, carry on.
Now, so they go through this big long thing, and then they talk about how in the late the 80s that the agency and other folks started coming back around. Mm-hmm. And started saying, hey, feeling it out, hey, are we on good terms now, etc. And Penn State, Pennsylvania, the same college that Cenk went to, was one of the main folks on the list. So watch this. So I'm reading this now. Watch this. So this is Graham Spanier. So Graham Spanier, who's the head of the school. Graham Spanier was the exception to Walter's dictum. The Vietnam War didn't prejudice him against intelligence agencies. As an undergraduate and graduate student at Iowa State University, he told me he had been an establishment radical. So this is a guy who's claiming that he's a radical leftist. He's an establishment radical, but he's working for the CIA. We'll see in a second. Spanier, who had student and medical deferments and so didn't serve in the war. Very interesting. Yeah, you can like the agency because you're not going to war. led peaceful law-abiding demonstrations against it, but disapproved of confrontational tactics such as taking over administration buildings. Once when a march threatened to turn unruly, he borrowed a police loudspeaker to urge calm. I had the greatest respect for law enforcement. I was always in the forefront of change, but I believed in working through the system. That's really interesting. Because when Jimmy was saying we need to start a third party after the 2016 debacle, when Jimmy was saying, hey, we can get people like Vin and Sori who are normally Republican voters who just vote down the line. I mean, that's what your dad told you, just vote R down the line.
Yeah.
We can actually get these people to work with us. We can actually start a party. No. What did Cenk tell us? Cenk said, no, we got to work within the system. Now, again, correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation, whatever. Just let's keep watching. I was always in the forefront of change, but I believed in working through the system. I wanted to be at the table making change rather than outside the building yelling and having no effect. Please think about the Jimmy versus Cenk angle, and who could you imagine saying that? Interesting. As he advanced in his career, gaining a seat at the table of administrators who hammered out the academic policy, he paid little heed to the church committee or to the CIA and FBI activities. The CIA, the FBI, and a bunch of these other alphabet groups were infesting his campus, and he turned a blind eye to it. Then in 1995, now Cenk graduated from that university in 1992. So these guys were contemporaries. So as this shit is happening, Cenk is at this school. He was in the Wharton division, the Wharton school, but it was part of the University of Pennsylvania. Then in 1995, he was appointed president of Penn State because the university conducts classified research at its applied research laboratory. Spanier needed a security clearance. A lot of times the agency will have some of their think tanks just set up right in these universities, right in plain sight. While he was being vetted, he read newspaper accounts linking a University of South Florida professor, Sami al-Arian, an adjunct instructor, Ramadan Shallah, to Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Iran-backed terrorist groups. Spanier was struck by USF President Betty Castor's lament that she's had no idea of al-Arian's alleged fundraising for terrorists and that the FBI had not given her one iota of information. The soft-spoken Shallah had been named head of Islamic Jihad and vowed war against Israel. The director of the International Studies Center at USF was quoted as saying, "We couldn't be more surprised." Spanier made his own vow, never be surprised. As a university president, he thought, I want to be the first to know, not the last. Now watch this. He convened a meeting in his conference room of every government agency that might conduct an investigation at Penn State, from the FBI and CIA to the Navy Criminal Investigation Service and state and local police departments. What I said to them is, if there is a significant national security or law enforcement issue on my campus, you can trust me. I understand. Now, he's got agency guys, NSA guys, FBI, local police, everybody. I'd like you to feel comfortable coming to talk to me about it rather than sneaking around behind my back. So he's telling these guys, look, if you guys want to work on my campus, just let me know, bro. Like, give me a heads up. They agreed to stay in touch. From then on, an FBI or CIA agent, usually both, would drop by once a month to brief him or ask his advice, typically about counterintelligence and cybersecurity issues involving foreign students or visitors. In 2002, David Sadzi became the FBI's assistant director for counterintelligence. A quarter century before, it's 25 years from 2002, he had gone undercover at the University of Pittsburgh, posing as a chemist to befriend Soviet students. Now, like Spanier, he wanted to smooth relations between intelligence agencies and academia. Soon, FBI and CIA officials asked Spanier to expand the Penn State experiment nationwide. That means that Penn State was at the vanguard of this attempt to bring the CIA and the FBI into academia and kind of squash the beef that happened in the 60s. They were one of the first schools to reinsert that, and Spanier's job was to expand that nationwide. Oh, wow. That is a school that Mr. Uyghur came from. It's the same school in the same period of time. And he thinks... He
might have had a conversation.
He might have had a conversation.
Where he said no.
about and he told the agency no. Now, granted, Cenk would be the premier guy to reach out to if you're in the CIA, because he's very intelligent. He's a lawyer. He's got that business degree, and he's Turkish, but he's loyal to America. Perfect. That is you can't get better than that, especially in the late 80s, early 90s when we were doing with Lebanon, Hezbollah, all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Turkey,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Turkey is actually really interesting because there's a very interesting mix of Shia and Sunni who are tensely living together. So it would be very, very strategic for Mr. Uyghur to be recruited by the CIA. But he thinks, and then in that conversation, this is the part that Jackson missed because there was so much craziness in that conversation. But this is the part that Jackson missed, which was an extremely fascinating, I would say, admission or whatever.
No. Okay.
And this actually came from our folks at Middle America. Tasco was the one that found this particular moment, and I think we're probably going to land the plane with this situation. So here we go. Here's Cenk in that interview from about 3 or 4 years ago.
I'm positive that if I had gone forward and applied to the same kind of posting you saw, that I would have thought the same exact thing. I know I.
Okay, so here's Cenk talking to this guy. Now, remember, this guy worked for the agency. Now he's writing books for them, okay? And so the entire point of him being on the show was this guy is an ex-CIA guy. And remember, Cenk is claiming that the agency tried to recruit him. I believe that they did because he's perfect for the agency. And he's claiming that he said no because he thinks, he doesn't remember. Now, listen very closely to this. And then Allison says, what if Cenk recruited him? Allison, well, look, sis, just listen to this part, and we're going to see why Allison's question isn't so crazy. Watch this.
I'm positive that if I had gone forward and applied to the same kind of posting you saw, that I would have thought the same exact thing. I know I did back then, very patriotic. I'm still very patriotic before all the great things that America does, not the rotten things that America does. But back then, I didn't make that distinction as much, right? And I'm sure that I would have thought the CIA is doing good in the world. So I would have been right in that same class. I probably would have evolved and been the progressive that I am today. Right. So it's not surprising to me that there's a lot of thoughtful liberals, progressives, etc. in the CIA.
Did you catch that last part? That's very, very important. It's not surprising to me that there are many thoughtful liberals, progressives in the CIA. Really? Progressives in the CIA. Aren't progressives going against everything the CIA is trying to accomplish in the world, Cenk? The CIA was the one that gave us the Russiagate nonsense. It came from the agency. You remember Schumer got on there? He says, hey, man, you mess with the intelligence guys, they can really fuck you up. That's what he said on Rachel Maddow. And Rachel Maddow goes, oh, okay. And Rachel Maddow didn't say, what the fuck? The CIA can't do that to people. What's wrong with you? She was just sitting there nodding. It was the CIA that came up with that idea. It's the CIA that was telling us that we should go attack Assad and that anybody, so the OPCW report, which came out and said, no, that was all bullshit. No. The OPCW folks are, the OPCW, they watch what happens with chemical attacks, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And they said, no, the party line on what happened in Syria is not what actually happened. And it was the CIA that was pushing for that. The CIA was pushing for war in Iraq. It was also the CIA that was pushing the bullshit narrative about how the Russians supposedly were recruiting the Tali to assassinate American soldiers in Afghanistan. All of which have been debunked. All of them. And all of them, if they would have been believed by the majority of the American populace, would have resulted in war.
Oh my gosh.
When the CIA put out that bullshit story, and I covered that story, and I took apart that story, because like I said, it's in my wheelhouse, and I completely took apart that story long before they finally came out and admitted it. And it's not because I'm smart, it's because I had access to certain tools. You guys can look at it yourself, and you can make your own determination there. But I remember when I completely deconstructed that, and Amy Lee is in the room. She remembers. because she was saying, "Oh no, this is, you know." I'm not gonna talk about, you know, whatever.
Did she
whatever.
agree or disagree with you?
Oh, she agreed. We had all the people, and you can go look at the comment section, guys. Go look at the comment section for that shit. Some people might be a little embarrassed, but the CIA tried to get us into Iraq. Well, they successfully got us into Iraq. They tried to they didn't architect the Arab Spring, but they definitely utilized the media perfectly, along with certain other assets, to generate the Arab Spring. And then it was clear what they were trying to do with Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad, they thought that he was going to fall just like the Egyptians did and the Libyans did, and he fought back and miraculously survived and pushed back. So they want to go and finish the job. So then, you know, right on the last day when he basically won, now he does this chemical attack against his own people, yada, yada, yada. So now we have to go after him again.
Goodness.
Right? Those are all, see, and you know what? Every single one of those, Cenk and Anna were in lockstep every single time. Every single time.
Oh my gosh.
Do what you will with that, dear listener. You got Anna attacking Aaron Mate over what? Over Syria. Think about this. How do you explain Anna's giant meltdown at Aaron Mate? Attacking Aaron Mate. How do you explain that? These are not random attacks. There have been multiple people who've criticized TYT. Been multiple people that criticize TYT. Why such an ugly invective against this guy? And Ginny has played this clip, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, but we had an interview with somebody, and they were talking about Cenk's pathetic takedown of Julian Assange. Julian Assange is I mean, the guy is almost a saint for God. He's getting tortured probably as we speak right now for revealing the truth. Not a single article or a single story broken by WikiLeaks has ever been proven false. And Cenk gets on TV and says, "Yeah, man, I think he's working for Trump. He's chosen a side. We can't listen to Julian Assange." And what the person that we were interviewing pointed out to us was the fact that it's clear that Cenk wasn't speaking with the same conviction and yelling that we normally see him with. And this person was saying he was doing it for some donor. No, I don't think it was some donor, bro. I don't think he was doing it for a donor.
Oh my gosh.
But this does provide explanatory power for Cenk's and Anna's very strange behavior. Why attack Aaron Mate?
Yeah.
Like, I know he said some weird thing. Why attack Julian Assange? And why are you completely always on the side of the intelligence, particularly the CIA? Why are you always on their side?
Wow.
And look, listen. Please don't come to me with the like, well, Cenk has criticized the CIA before. I'm sure he has. I can tell you agency people that have criticized the CIA on camera. That doesn't mean that they were not working for the agency. I mean, it's called the Central Intelligence Agency. These are intelligent people. They're not dumb. And that's why I always say, like, it does no... I try so hard never to say that these people are dumb or stupid or whatever, because that is part of it. Everything that you put out into the ether goes into the mind, at least at the inception level, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you, these are intelligent people. Now, Cenk doesn't have a lot of kinetic intelligence, which is probably why he was never a field guy, okay? Because they test that shit out quickly. He probably, because they, you know, you get a wish list of, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And then when you test out, you know, if you're weak on kinetics, then you're gonna get a death job. Like this guy right here was like, oh, as a death job, blah 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 blah.
Wow.
So this guy, you know, whatever.
That is weird.
The
Plus,
interview,
like you said, that information before, where he said we should work in the system.
Correct. We should work. Yeah. He has the exact same philosophy as Spanier did, which makes a lot of sense because Spanier was there working hand in glove with the agency and the FBI at the time that Cenk was in his formative years in that school. He graduated in 92. This guy became the president in 95. They were working together. Spanier was working together. That is a fact. That's a fact.
Wow.
So here's Amy. Remember when Bernie endorsed Cenk as congressional candidate for California less than 24 hours? He withdrew his support. Curious, huh? Yeah, it is very curious. Now, people are saying that Bernie bowed down to because there was an outcry because of Cenk's old videos, but everybody already knew that Cenk was a sick bastard, especially Bernie. Look, man, look. On the major issues that matter, that hold people's lives in the balance. Julian Assange, Russiagate, Syria, he's batting 1,000 going along with CIA talking points. And on top of that, they attack people who attack CIA talking points. So now Jimmy Dore is a Russian. Did you notice? Everybody was like, holy shit, the Russia thing again? The Russia thing again? What's wrong with these people? Well, where did the Russia story originate from? It was some rogue dude from MI6, and some of our folks who had an axe to grind. I've told you guys a million times, the agency does not view themselves as that's an American organization. They view themselves as the fulcrum for universal benevolence by the superiority of American interests in the world, because they believe that that American interests and what's good for the world are one and the same.
Wow.
Okay, that's their mentality.
I used to think that.
Huh?
I used to think that.
Yeah, of course, and a lot of young people think that,
Yeah.
especially in these universities.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
So, look.
And then when you look at their numbers,
Correct.
you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, how are they getting this? Like, obviously their numbers are going down.
Correct.
But yet suddenly that's just pretty weird.
Correct. As Sykes says, they attacked Aaron Monte and Julian Assange for a very simple reason. Both of them exposed real reasons why Americans should be against foreign military intervention. He's 100% correct. Every single time somebody's speaking out against this
so
shit,
bad.
It's always Cenk and Anna who show up to attack them and shoot them down.
That's bad.
Why? Well, I told you guys before.
Wow.
Now, look, this is completely speculative, guys, but I told you guys this before, right? I said the powers that be, because I was talking about the push now to start really regulating Facebook and Twitter. You had what's her name?
Yeah.
Not McEnany, the other lady, Jensen, whatever her name is. She was saying, look, if you get banned from one forum, you should get banned from all of them. And they're now in a consulting role with Facebook and remember I was saying, look, Facebook and Twitter, those are private companies. They can deplatform who they want. I've pretty much changed my mind because Jen Psaki admitted that they're now consulting with Facebook and Twitter, telling them who to ban and why, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what happened is you look at the tea leaves and you go, well, shit, if we let this independent media shit go, then we're in a lot of trouble.
Yep.
Because that's the way they got us into the Iraq War.
Yep. Oh, 100%.
So we need to find a group that's independent media on YouTube, because we already have CNN and MSNBC. We need to get a group that's on YouTube in this independent journalism space so we can continue to preach our gospel.
Wow.
That's why when Cenk and all those I'm not going to say that. Go ahead.
No, the information that you're bringing, it does look very suspicious. And all that stuff is making sense. Holy moly.
Now look, Denise says the CIA funded the right-wingers in the 70s in Turkey when they were afraid that Turkey would be lost to Russia and become a socialist state. Cenk's family are Turkish right-wingers. Correct. And Bellingcat's wife is Turkish. Okay? The high school guy just dropped out of school. It's like, Anna, of all the outlets that you could have selected, she select Bellingcat. Interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen,
Wow.
we live in very interesting time. I'm not saying that I know definitively that Mr. Uger is an agency asset. What I am saying is that when you look at who he was around, the school that he went to, the very strange takes that he's taken, especially recently, the fact that he also attacked Max Blumenthal, who, now again, he attacked Blumenthal because, Blumenthal said a couple negative things about him, but every single time that somebody's trying to kill a pro-war narrative or an establishment narrative that you will see on CNN and MSNBC, Cenk is on the wrong side of it. And Cenk is Jimmy's brilliant, but I don't think Jimmy is like miles away more brilliant than Cenk. The difference between Jimmy and Cenk is that Jimmy's intelligence is almost all kinetic. It's all like when he's at war, and you see him, he's unscripted, and he starts talking, and like boom, something incredibly intelligent comes out, but you don't realize it because he's saying it in the midst of all that rage. But so Jimmy's absolutely intelligent, but he's not head and shoulders more intelligent than Cenk. Cenk, how is it that Jimmy was able to see through the Russiagate bullshit and you couldn't? How's that possible? Again, I don't know. A lot of people were fooled by the Russiagate bullshit. But honestly, the people that were fooled by it were people that, you do politics 24/7. That's all you do. The rest of us have jobs and all this. Well, this was our job. So when this is your job, you're able to sit and look at things for hours and hours and hours and hours. Regular people aren't able to do that. But Cenk, that's what you do. This is the only job you have. Jimmy's a comedian. He's got to go around and... How was Jimmy able to see it, but you weren't? How was I, a punk kid? How was I don't have all that education. How was I able to see through that shit immediately, but you weren't? I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. Do what you will with that, dear listener. Do what you will with that. I don't know. Give us your final thoughts, Sweets.
I think it's pretty... it looks pretty obvious the way that you're breaking it down. And then it makes sense why, their channel is always on the suggested, but that other people's is not. And, we know what to do to be in the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
And so does Jimmy. But yet somehow some channels are being suppressed and other people's are just being exonerated. That's very, very interesting. Wow. Just
interesting. Interesting stuff.
Yep.
Interesting stuff. And
it just goes to show you that you really need to subscribe to the smaller channels that are not in it for the money or for some other crazy reason, and they're just trying to be, we're just trying to talk about what we're seeing in the media, and we don't have any stake in the game. Because if you really want to hear, and not just us, I'm sure that there's other political channels.
Well, that's why I mentioned Jackson and there. Yeah. I understand there's some drama happening, but I still think you should subscribe to the Vanguard guys. Yeah, I know there's some jihad going on, but there's a lot of alternative media that you can turn to that are doing a damn good job. I think that Jackson kid is I think he's up next, because he's incredibly intelligent, that kid. So there's a lot of good. I think that's the problem some of these folks are dealing with.
It also is like weird when you're watching what's happening on their channel that you're like, do these people have no self-awareness? Like, how come they're going like bulls in china shops like this? It doesn't even make any sense. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe they're being propped up by so they're not at a real risk like other people would be if they were in the same situation, just shooting from the hip at different people around them.
Yeah.
It's just pretty weird.
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange stuff. You can't deny it. So look, guys, I don't think Cenk is a horrible person. I'm grateful to God that I found Cenk in TYT, because Cenk was really the one that really calmly broke down progressivism to me. And I perceive Cenk as a progressive who's lost his way. Mm-hmm. And the agency is very good at that. They're very good at turning people upside down and using their naivete and their goodwill.
Yeah.
Depending on the energy that the person has, they're very good at turning that, and making you do, not making you, people have to take responsibility for their actions, but convincing people to do horrible things that are completely out of their moral code that they otherwise wouldn't do.
Yeah, that's sad.
So, look, I mean, it's nothing for the agency to get somebody to compromise on media integrity, especially when there's a 20 million. I mean, look, guys, say what you want. This is all conspiracy nonsense. It might be. It might all be conspiracy nonsense. I mean, I'm looking at my board right now. I'm looking at the arrows and shit. You ever see that thing where the guy's has all those things, and I'm like,
the paper's the string.
People are gonna say that I'm crazy or whatever, but it is true that Cenk's buddy, the Katzenberg's buddy, who cut Cenk the $20 million check, his buddy is a top CIA recruiter. That's just a fact. It is true that Anna quoted Bellingcat, and believe what you want about Bellingcat. If you believe he's just some high school dropout that was playing...
no, babe, you have to say it right. He's a college dropout.
He wasn't a college dropout.
It said college,
I know.
didn't it?
They were wrong about that, though. It was a men's school. It wasn't a college. It wasn't a college.
Well,
the reason they said college dropout is because they wanted to give him credibility.
Yeah,
because he dropped out of a high school.
Okay, so I thought he dropped out of the college,
school.
so that would be like the CIA was already in there recruiting people, so he was in college, and then he drops out, but actually he got recruited.
I mean, he obviously got recruited somehow, but I don't think it was in college. I think that they didn't say where he went to Haberdashers Adams Grammar School. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where he went. Okay, it's in Shropshire. It's in Newport, England, for God's sake.
It sounds like something from Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly. It's a boys' school, and he didn't even finish. So he's a high school dropout. But they don't want to say. I mean, Bill Gates was a college dropout, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that works, but high school dropout, that doesn't give him much credibility. So they said he was a college dropout to try to give him credibility. That's what I think. But either way, I don't know. Maybe the CIA just randomly goes to just random random bloggers who none of us have ever heard of, and has documents about them for all to see, and is defending them against Russian misinformation and disinformation. Oh my goodness gracious, guys! What a time to be alive, y'all! What a time to be alive. I'm happy about it, man. Like, hey, I'm gonna be able to tell my kids, like, hey, you guys were around when all that shit was happening. Do I think that Cenk is an agent of the CIA? Yes, I do think he's an agent. I don't think he's an officer, but I do think he's an agent. I think at some point down the line, probably the Trump thing, honestly. I think, because I don't think he's always been one, but I think at some point down the line, he got turned. And like I said, those recruiters, they spend a hell of a lot of time and money on recruitment. A lot of money on recruitment. And they've got some very, 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 very talented recruiters. So there you go.
Wow.
No, I'm almost certain that Stout is not an agent. I don't think Stout is a CIA agent or an officer, but I'm almost certain that Cenk is a CIA agent for sure. CIA recruits doing third year of college for fourth year co-op trial like the NSA. Yep, that's enough. That's enough of that from you. That's enough of that from you, Miss Amy Lee. Look, shout out to Stoudman, because we need dissenting voices in Middle America. Middle America is not an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate Stoudman being here. I appreciate his opinion. I probably just disagree here. I think a very good solid case could be made that Cenk Uygur is a CIA agent, and maybe even Anna. As I've said, you probably know people that have worked for the CIA.
Oh, so crazy. Wow. It's unbelievable.
All right. He goes, I'm honored to think. Here's the last thing. Here's the last thing I'm going to show you guys. And thank God for Tasco, because again, this is what Tasco. This is what we discovered on Tasco. There's a woman by the name of Sybil Edmonds. Okay.
So headphones.
Yeah, you're going to need them in a second. And I just want to give you this woman's bona fides, okay? Sybil Edmonds has a website entitled Whistleblower, the National Whistleblower Center. This is the NWC. And she also did work for, she's come out and said that she's worked for the FBI.
Okay.
And so here is her website. I'm just showing you guys her website so that you can see. I knew there was something that I forgot. I'm so happy that Tasco's here. So here's her website. You can see up there the National Whistleblower Center, who we are, what we do, yada yada yada. She blew the whistle on a situation in the FBI. I'm not going to get into it. She blew the whistle situation in the FBI, and you know what happened where it happened. And ever since then, she started the National Whistleblowers outlet. She is a very interesting woman, and she had something to say about our hero Cenk Uygur a couple years ago. Here's what she said.
Well, first I became familiar not with his face but with his name, because when I was working with the FBI and going through all these Turkey CIA operations, Gladio B operations related files with persons of interest who were targets of these investigations, the name Cenk Uygur began popping, not at any high level, main target level. He was more of a lower level, parasitic, criminally connected guy with shady Turkish Israeli organizations that were operating for this particular operation from late 1990s until at least the time that I was fired from the FBI, which was 2002. I was not surprised when he began disinformation campaign and sabotage against my case during my whistleblowing journey. This is during the period between 2004 and 2008. Because he knew that I knew, because I had been speaking about and talking about some of the facts, some of the involved organizations, front organizations. Some of them were Turkish organizations. Well, he was involved, Cenk Uygur, again, as a rat, as a lower level rat, nobody significant. But when you're looking at the petty criminal in the bottom of the chain, parasitic guy, that's what he was. So he knew that I was familiar with those criminal organizations he was involved with. So I was not surprised when he started attacking me and launched this disinformation campaign against my whistleblowing case while I was single-handedly fighting the George W. Bush administration on all different fronts, state secrets privilege, various gag orders, etc.
Rip, don't worry about me, bro. Nothing's going to happen to me. Nothing is going to happen to me. Trust me on that one. Guys, now, every time you listen to somebody, one of the first things that you have to realize is, what is their motivation? Cenk, according to her own mouth, said stuff against her in her very emotional fight with the FBI, etc. She blew the whistle, they fired her, yada, yada, yada. She was in this giant, long, drawn-out jihad, blah, blah, blah. So she has a lot of motive, right, to mischaracterize Cenk and assassinate his character. You have to account for that, okay? So do what you will with that, okay? So she has a very understandable motive to lie about Cenk and to make him look bad. However, this woman was not very publicized. Nobody picked up this story. hopefully we can shoot this to Jimmy, and Jimmy can get more.
Yeah.
Maybe he can sit Glenn Greenwald on the situation, because Glenn's pretty connected, and really dig into the weeds and talk to this woman. But she's saying that when she had access, because you know, after 9/11, Department of Homeland Security, all these agents there was a lot of pressure. Now we got to start talking to each other, because that was one of the, you know, the issues. You had Muhammad Atta, you know, the FBI had Muhammad Atta, the other guys had bin Laden, and people weren't talking to each other, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, whatever happened. So you sit up Homeland Security and you change process procedures. Now you got to share. She is saying that when she was working for the Bureau, and that's documented, she actually worked for the Bureau. That's a fact. She did blow the whistle on them. They did fire her. All that shit is true. None of that shit is contested. She's saying that when she was looking through the documents or whatever for stuff, because she was assigned in regions, Cenk's name came up on the CIA side, that he was working with Israelis and Turks, low-level criminal. Do what you will with that, but that's another angle. This keeps popping up with this guy. I've never seen anybody so prominent have all these explicit agency connections, whether it's the president of his school, who literally I mean, they said we need to expand this experiment from Penn State. Mm-hmm. Okay? I didn't say that. Anna quoting Bellingcat, this Elliot fella who's obviously an agency guy, who's probably an officer for at minimum, he's, you know, this guy wow. Is the dude, that the Bellingcat guy. I mean, this guy is global. He is all over the place. Here he is right here. Okay. This is the author of Bellingcat, guys. Here he is at a national. He's at some conference in I think it was Russia. He was giving some presentation, and this girl right here is she's Svetlana something or other. That guy's clearly an agency guy, right? That's not some single dad in his couch who barely graduated high school doing that presentation. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what they want us to believe, the author of Bellingcat. He's just some single dad who barely graduated high school who was
they put him in a sweatshirt in that picture.
Yeah, he's in a sweatshirt in that picture. Like, people are accusing me of being in the agency, blah, blah, blah. This group is we would have to say, if he's not working for the agency, if Cenk isn't working for the agency in any capacity, we'd have to say that is a hell of a lot of coincidences.
Yeah. Yep.
Robert, as I've said a million times, the agency does not perceive themselves as a group of people who are beholden to our laws and our Constitution. They don't believe that that's their function in the world. They don't believe the law applies to them. They really don't. As a matter of fact, they believe that they're superior and that they're the guardians, literally, of the world. And you could say they sound batshit crazy, but they're in the most powerful country known to man, and they've pretty much been able to walk through the world and do whatever they want with absolute impunity. So, a lot of people, when you hear about the agency and what they do, people like start appealing to laws as if these people feel that they're beholden to laws. I mean, Chuck Schumer came on TV and said, and this was about the president of the United States. Chuck Schumer said, the CIA will fuck you up if they don't like you. You can't cross those people. And this is Chuck Schumer saying this about the president. So that tells you what everybody who knows anything about the agency knows about those guys. Those guys do not perceive themselves as people who are beholden to America or Americans. They perceive themselves as people who are being charged to save the world by promoting American supremacy. That's what they believe. So, sorry, that's what's happened. So that they don't care. They don't care about laws like me and you. You know what I'm saying? Like me and you care about laws. Me and you worry about that shit. They don't worry about that stuff. Okay, guys. Thank you very, 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 very much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the time. Shout out to Stoudman for having a contrary view, and thank you to all of you beautiful people for not taking it personally and being respectful to the homie, because we're never ever going to be an echo chamber here in Middle America. We're always going to value the thoughts and opinions of everybody so long as they're being honest actors. Mm-hmm. Having said that, in the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.